Hey, great to have you here on the Follow Through. I'm Pastor Fred. This is where we are listening to God, right? We're looking at the Word of God. We're also living it out, living for Jesus. And so we're in Revelation 12 and 13, right? Two big chapters. And these are really, just so you know, kind of a pause between these kind of visions, right? That we get these big pictures, and each of the pictures has 7 different events that we see unfold. And so this is kind of a little bit of a break in between. And what God is going to give us again is another reminder that as we struggle, that when we feel like giving up and giving in, which is what happens to us all the time, that God has triumphed. And so we have Christmas today. I know it's weird because this is going to go out probably closer to Valentine's Day than Christmas. But in Revelation 12, in the first bunch of verses, it's really the Christmas story again. Again, this flies in the face of how we normally think of Revelation as kind of linear and sequence after sequence, date after date, chronological. But here we have something that's from not the future, but way in the past. But it's a reminder that what happens in the past, what Jesus did for us, what God has done for us, man, it matters. It's everything for us right now in the present, especially as we deal with tyranny in our lives, as we deal with adversity and all these other things. We know what happened with Jesus and Herod. You had the Silent Night, you had the Christmas story, but then you had remember those guys from the east that came and they had been following a star that led them to Bethlehem, and they wanted to know where Jesus was. So they go to Herod, and Herod hears there's another king, right? So evil, especially a guy like that, does not want to hear there's another kind of rival ruler. He ain't gonna have that. And so that's just really kind of a model for what happens all the time. People that are bad and systems that are bad and governments and rulers that are bad do not want to be reminded of that, and they don't want to be challenged on that. None of us do. Even if I can get personal for a minute, we can maybe sort of see that as someone else's problem and what someone else does, but again, we also want to see how am I part of that problem? And I'm not talking about following along, but I'm talking about when do I act in a tyrannical way in my life? When do I oppress the people in my life, even in subtle ways, right? Am I loving? Am I caring? Am I bringing the love of Jesus to them? All right, so let's look at 12, 1 in the beginning. Here we have a great sign appears in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head is a crown of 12 stars. Now she is pregnant and crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And then on the other side, where we have the threat, and that appears in heaven, it's a great red dragon, 7 heads, 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems, right? His tail swept 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood between the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Man, that is not very Christmassy, is it? But it's what happened, isn't it? No sooner was Jesus born, but an earthly king wanted to devour him, wanted to take him out of the picture. The devil does not want this plan of God to succeed, and yet it did, and yet it does. That's the point. That's the takeaway from this. You have Mary, who is this woman, and again, she's not to be worshipped. I want to be clear about that, but we also don't want to dismiss it and ignore her, because here she's clothed with the sun, the moon is under her feet. She has this crown of 12 stars, so she is really represents God working even through normal, everyday people, through His people. And he gives her this honor because she's the one who, again, it's not about how holy she is. She just obeys, right? She's just there. And what an amazing, amazing thing. In the face of this threat, she hangs tough. She listens to God, continues. Joseph does as well, right? There's dreams and visions that God guides them, and they go to Egypt. They have to flee. It's not safe where they're at. In fact, Herod winds up killing the firstborn in the land. It's horrible. But that's what we have, that's what we face. But in the face of that, the mission was accomplished. Jesus was safe. He wound up going into Galilee, right? He was raised in Nazareth, goes to the cross, suffers, and dies for us. Mission successful, mission accomplished. Our souls have been saved. Our souls have been renewed by Him. Trust in Him today, especially despite the darkness that wants to threaten you and take you down. All right? Share that with somebody so that they too can have that hope. Talk to you next time.